And a giant shout out to the marketing team. Let's hear it for Austin. Yeah, he's a city in Texas. He's also, with Tyler's help and the support of the entire marketing team, we've got a big goal. And since we're in Columbus, we say to biddle. But for us, it means to be the best brand builders in the land, and we're working on it every single day. So thank you everybody for putting on a great show. And importantly, you're each gonna have the chance to share stories of who it was, what it was that brought you to this moment in time. But truly, the real reason are the judges who selected you. And this has become so sophisticated, I should also note, you are the 25th class to ever be inducted into the Cravers Hall of Fame. I'm going to take a moment and thank our judges. It's become so sophisticated now. We have 2 rounds of judging. Round 1 judges, Wanda Martin Terry, Scott Miller, Joey Vias for Victory Wagner, Brandy Hartwell, Brent Bishop, Braden Kellogg. Round 2 judges, Rebecca Tutcher, Phil Barone, Melissa Bordenkircher, Megan Lynch, Elisa Lewis, Katie King, and Connor Worley. Let's hear it for all of them. There's a lot of celebrities over here, but we have another celebrity here who's going to say hello in just a moment. So, she puts the crave in Cravelicious. She has us make them square so they're easy to share. Ladies and gentlemen, our slider queen, Lisa Ingram.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm always honored to be here, and nobody does introductions better than Jamie, so thank you. I will add my thanks to the marketing department for all of the great work that they have done to get us to this moment, and our team at number 26 last night. You guys had a good time at the castle last night? All right, so let's give a round of applause for our operations team, Teresa, Mike, Chris, and everybody at castle number 26, Annie. They always know how to throw out the red carpet. We are so excited that you guys are here. I've read your stories. They're super fun. Lots of great adventures that everybody is excited to hear about. But I always like to start with, our mission is to create memorable moments every day. And we do that because we want to feed the souls of Craver generations. And there's so many stories and moments that each of you have helped pass down the brand to future generations. So for that, we are eternally grateful. And this is a super fun day because we get to be reminded by all of you why we get up each and every day to come to White Castle to try to create those great memorable moments that someday might be in a story from one of our most ardent cravers. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for submitting your stories. Thank you to our judges for selecting them, and let's go ahead and get started and hear your stories. Thank you.
It's pretty cool. As a family-owned business, Lisa's our 4th generation CEO, leader, slider queen. But today, we have 3rd generation family member, 4th generation family members, and 5th generation family members. So if I could ask Aaron and Dana Shannon to stand up representing the 4th generation, Mary Ann Kelly to stand up representing the 3rd generation, and Maggie Richardson to stand up representing the 5th generation. Dave Wright, 4th generation. I'm sorry, Dave, stand up, because Dave, guess what? Dave has the only 6th generation grandchild, so yeah, I thought he was out to get Leo to bring him here for his first time occasion. I'm sorry, David. Well, that is a lot of getting ready. Let's go, because our first nominee visited in his career so far as a slider advocate almost as many castles as our slider queen. Let's hear it for Bill Hilligans.
Before I get started and get on the clock, Austin, thank you to all White Castle for making this happen. When I got the call from the hall and I saw it was from Columbus, I wasn't sure I wanted to take the call. And I did, and I was in the office all alone, and Jamie told me that I was going to be inducted. I got goosebumps, and I started to well up. And what was amazing to me is I've taken this journey since then. I've got to see the real excellence that has happened within the White Castle organization, and I just say thank you to all of you. And I'd be remiss for not thanking my wife. Over 40 years ago, on our second date, I popped the question to her. And she had the right answer. I said, do you like White Castle? And 40-some years later, we are married that long. As I got older, I really enjoyed going to White Castle as a kid. And if there were any kind of opportunities to go to another fast food restaurant, if White Castle wasn't an option, it was, well, whatever, second place, they're the first loser, so we'll go there. But I started noticing that I was eating at a lot of different White Castles in my different journeys throughout the United States, and so I emailed corporate and I said, would you be willing to send me a list of all the White Castles in the United States of America? And so they sent that to me, so I started checking them off one by one, and my goal was to eat, at that time they had over 400 restaurants, to eat at all of them. But that has not happened yet. But what happened was I became a youth pastor dealing with students in 6th grade through 12th grade. And this gave me a great opportunity to build relationships with those students. And I constantly told them how amazing White Castle was. It was in some of my messages, it was in my daily routine. If we went on mission trips, when we went anywhere, I would always take my leaders to White Castle prior to the trip just to say thank you. And the students all got to know that I was eating at a number of different White Castles across the country. So as we were returning from one of those trips, what happened was 3 of my students came up to me on the bus and they said, we would like to talk to you. And I said, oh great, something went wrong. And they said, no, we would like to talk to you. And they pulled this out, Bill's packet. And they said, we want to go see Ed Sheeran. Now, it was 2012, I had no idea who Ed Sheeran was. And so I said, that's great, I'm happy for you. And they go, well, our parents won't take us. And I said, well, if your parents aren't going to take you, I sure am not going to take you. And they said, oh, no, they're okay, they just don't want to drive us there, we just need a ride. And I said, okay, let's go back to the point. I really don't know who this Ed guy is, and I don't want to see him in concert. They said, no, we have a plan. And so they started to set the hook. And they pulled out the packet. And in that packet was the story how they could build quality time with me. And they wrote all about that for the hour drive, how they could spend quality time with me. And then the next page was the history of White Castle. I knew there was something going on here. And so as I started to talk to them more, the real thing came up. I realized that they weren't really interested in themselves, but they cared deeply about me. Because on the next page was a Google map of the 6 closest White Castle restaurants to the Riviera in Chicago. And what their plan was they wanted me to drive them to Chicago, drop them off at the Riviera, and then I had the opportunity to add to my list of different White Castles that evening. This is a no-brainer. I'm getting paid to be with students, and I get to go get more White Castles. And so that's what I did. I took them, I dropped them off at the concert venue, I drove around, hit 6 different White Castles that I'd never been able to eat at, and I arrived at the venue about 10 minutes before the concert got over. They talked about the concert, how amazing it was. What White Castle has given me the opportunity to really be, White Castle has been an instrument that was able to allow me to pour into the role of students' lives, and hopefully to make a difference in their lives as they make a difference in the world. So for that, I say thank you to White Castle for the role that you have played in my life and the role that you have played in the lives of many of my students. Thanks again, White Castle. This truly is a great honor. Thank you.
Our next inductees did not drive here because it's a little bit of a hike from Northern California. We're going to hear a little bit about the White Castle Code as designed by the Coder brothers, Wayne Ting and Hansel Lin. Welcome to the Cravers Hall of Fame.
There's Tyler right there, huge thanks to Jamie, as well as, of course, Lisa, thanks for having us here. I hope whoever thought of this Hall of Fame idea got the promotion and huge raise. This is awesome. So my name's Hansel, this is Wayne. We are those two idiots right there on that picture. That is actually the cover of our book that we wrote. It is a book, autobiographical book about a company that I built called the Coder School. That's why we call ourselves the Coder Bros. Years ago, I remember I was on a plane, I was flipping through these movies, trying to figure out, I was thinking about what kind of title should we have for the book. Harold and Kumar came up, and I was like, boom, that's it. Two Asian guys going through crazy adventures. Love the White Castle, ending up at this crazy destination. And so we started thinking of White Castle as like not just a place to go to, but your happy place destination, right? Something you go through a bunch of adventures to get to this, awesome and fun place at the end. And so we even have a podcast by the same name where we ask our guests, what's your White Castle, what's your passion? So I'll leave you guys with one last thing and keep this short. Whether you guys are hang gliding off a cliff or getting high and riding a cheetah, Wayne and I wish you guys the best of luck in finding your very own personal White Castle. Thank you so much.
Our next inductee hails from Hilliard, but he's going to share why he's a long-distance craver. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next inductee, Court Hamilton.
Good afternoon. As our other inductee shares, absolute honor to be here today. Austin, thanks for organizing, and what an incredible group of leadership you guys have here. Got to know Lisa and Meg and Aaron quite well through this journey, and it truly has been an honor to look behind a company that really stands on the values that serves people. I made a couple notes, but I don't really think I need to bring them out. My story started, like most of my days, with a friend suggesting something that seemed absolutely ridiculous at a convention for the expo for the half marathon. A friend in town, dear friend, he would have been even a better personality to do this, but he was trying to qualify for Boston. And so when they asked if somebody would wear a slider costume for 13 to 26 miles, I was the next best option. I wasn't running for time. But I was running for a purpose, and if you've ever been to the Nationwide Children's Marathon, it is quite a moving experience. The city of Columbus gets behind the young people and the cause, and the streets are filled with just pure joy and support. And so I signed up for this promotion. I really didn't know what was going on. They said, hey, wear this thing, this costume. Sounded like a good idea until about 2 miles in. And then I don't know if you've ever had an experience that made you actually like I put myself inside the box of a slider. Like the heat, right? Like if there was onions in there, it would have, I think you know what I'm saying. I felt like the grill at Station 26 yesterday. But my favorite part, well, a couple things. My favorite part of this experience was just the people. Since then, I brought my staff here from Hilliard Bradley High School. I've got our editor-in-chief, Max, who's here, a student promoting this. Erin has been incredibly, and her team has been incredibly gracious with supporting our school. And their mission from 1921 and $700.05 in their branding is some of the best I've ever seen. And the ability to move forward and innovate, I think, is a lesson we can all take with us. It's like you change with the times and you stay ahead, and that's how you become elite. You, like the half marathon, one step at a time, and you keep moving. And I get to share that, I get to connect, and quite, just like Bill said, like it's given me conversations I can have with students that really are having rough days at school, or they're looking for something to be passionate about, and my message is always just act, do, fail forward, take that next step. And I think, you know, as we were getting ready in the race line, I kind of walked up. I didn't want anybody an hour before the race to see me in this costume. So I stood there and I looked at my buddy and I said, my brother-in-law was running with me because we ran at 35, 40, and 45 years old. That was kind of our commitment to each other. Every 5 years we had to be in a good enough shape to make it 13 miles. But I heard somebody in the back say, I put the costume on, I'm getting ready to start, and I want to answer a lot of questions, and somebody says, oh great, jeez. Last year, I got beat by a banana, and now I'm going to get beat by a slider. And you know what? I ran right beside that person until the finish, and I beat him. And I said, that'll be a good story. You got beat by a guy in a slider costume. But since then, again, I can't say enough about this event and this company. They do it the right way. They treat people the right way. The customer is first, and you always have a major fan in me, and I will share that with anybody and everybody that I can tell the story to. So thank you very much to everybody. It is an absolute honor to be here. Next time I run a half marathon, I will not wear the costume.
The only part of that story, Court, that we don't agree with completely about that suit being hot, I mean, that is the finest polyester you can get anywhere. It's very breathable. From the great city of Detroit, our next inductees share why things are better together at Love Castle. Please welcome Crystal Gray and Cornelia Murphy into the Cravers Hall of Fame.
Hello, everyone. Well, I would like to thank, first of all the judges for selecting, all the judges on the panel for selecting my story to be here with you guys today. Not only did they choose the story, but they choose to induct my mom as well, Cornelia Murphy, by inducting her into the Hall of Fame. Words can't describe how much that means to me, and for this reason, today will no longer entirely be filled with bitter and sad memories in my heart. On this very day, 1 year ago, April 29th, around 11:30, Henry Ford Hospital, my mom made her transition to be with the Lord. Today is a very emotional day for me and my family, and my mom was the matriarch of our family, and she held us together through all the tough times. So today's ceremony will be adding happier and a special memory that I will cherish in my heart forever. And it's all thanks to White Castle. I know that my mom would have loved to be here with me today, and in a way I feel that she is. And I will always cherish the times my mom and I had together at White Castle. From as far back as I can remember, my mom loved White Castle. She used to tell me stories of back in the day when she used to work there, and how the uniforms were all white, almost like the nurse's uniform, and how the managers wouldn't let anyone work if they came in with a bunch of stains on the uniform or didn't look presentable. I couldn't even imagine buying sliders for less than 10 cents. It sounds like the jackpot man to me. But your mama's sliders you could get for $5. I mean, incredible. She hated it though. She told me that she made so many burgers at times that she was making them in her sleep. But at the end of it all, she enjoyed her job at the castle. She told me how some nights were just like a scene from the movie Saturday Night Fever, where all the cool kids hung out and everything was just fun. It was a great time in her life. Sometimes I would even brag to my friends about my mom when she worked at White Castle, and I would tell them all, yeah, my mom, she said it was like a scene from Boogie Nights. And they would look at me and start smiling and grinning and like, oh yeah, Boogie Nights. What scene she reminisced about that movie? And I'm like, you know, the White Castle scene. And I would Google Boogie Nights and see Mark Wahlberg and that little four-letter word. And I'm like, oh no, not my mom, not that movie. And it's like nobody, my friends did not really know Saturday Night Fever because it was such an old movie, but they all knew Boogie Nights. So I'm like, no, because of that reason, I would never get those films confused ever again. But for the last decade or so, I would always make reservations at White Castle with my mom for Valentine's Day. She was always so lonely at times, and I never wanted her to be alone on that special day, so White Castle turned into our tradition and our favorite spot to spend time together. No matter what was going on in our lives, everything was put on hold for that special day, and we had so much fun together. White Castle Valentine's Day wasn't the only day we enjoyed White Castle. It was literally a staple in our routine, especially on Sundays after church. There were times we got mad at each other and had little arguments, and White Castle was the thing that brought us back together. My mom would call me on my cell phone, and I was mad, so I would just push her a voicemail, and she would leave me a voicemail saying, oh, I was on my way to White Castle after church, and I was just calling to see if you want some sliders, but since you ain't answering your phone, I would break my neck to get back to her and call her back, like, please bring me some food. And I believe that was her tool. White Castle was her tool that she used to get me back to talking to her, and it worked every time. My mom, I love her so much, and I miss her so much. I'm so grateful to have this chance to spend one last Valentine's with her last year. And although she's gone, I plan to continue to spend Valentine's Day and carry on our tradition with my daughters. And I only hope that they will cherish the experience with me just as I did when I was with my mom, because after all, crave is a powerful thing. And I thank you guys for being here.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you very, very much for sharing that. Well, our next inductees, if this were the Academy Awards, they might lead into it a little bit like, and for their introduction to the retail division, using the microwave as a gateway to future cravings, the Cravers Academy Award for Great Taste goes to Andrew Metter and Chad Wood. Andrew's going to represent.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, I'm a transplant here to Columbus, Ohio, and I've lived here for 20 years. And I think a lot of transplants have interesting stories about how they ended up where they were. But when I get asked, how did you end up in Columbus, Ohio? I give a mild chuckle, and I tell a story that goes something like this. So it was April 2005. Small university, Concord University in Athens, West Virginia. Small dorm room. My roommate and I had just gotten back from Blockbuster. We had our evening's entertainment prepared. It's a movie that would change my life. And because we're all sitting and standing here, we know that wasn't Citizen Kane. So we watched Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. And we were inspired in the most college young man way possible to, of course, go out and eat some White Castles. So we go to the local grocery store, and we are excitedly talking about our conquest of sliders. We have them in our buggy. Yes, we call them a buggy in West Virginia. And this guy who is night stalker overhears us. And he said, I don't mean to interrupt you boys, but you boys say you like sliders. And we're like, yes sir, we do. And he's like, well, I come from a place where there are actual White Castles. And he said, and if you boys love sliders so much, you owe it to yourselves to try the real thing. And my entire destiny hinged on those words. So, when we get back to the dorm room, the first thing we do is we go on the website, we go on White Castle's lovely website, and we see, okay, Athens, West Virginia, put in the zip code. What is the closest White Castle to a small town in southern West Virginia? And it was between Louisville, Kentucky, and Columbus, Ohio. So Chad and I had both been to Kentucky, but neither one of us had ever been to Ohio. And to kind of quote a former mayor, Michael Coleman, Columbus has a reputation problem in that it doesn't really have a reputation. We didn't really think anything particular about it, but we wanted to knock a state off of our list. And so we planned an entire trip here. We had all kinds of fun adventures. We went to the Columbus Zoo. We went to German Village. We ate at a small little cafe called Cafe Kerouac. We went to Little Brothers. And of course, we went to White Castle. So at the time, we had to drive through Lancaster to get here. And, you know, this was before GPS, so you don't really entirely know where you're going. You're just following the signs and hoping that you're not too lost. And so we're driving through Lancaster, and there it is. It's a beacon on a hill. A shining beacon on a hill. And Chad taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, Andy. I was like, what? He's like, there it is. And so, the plan detoured. We turned around, and then we went in. He filmed me going in, and I took my first bite of what would become a lifelong obsession. We enjoyed our trip to Columbus. We really did. We enjoyed everything about it. But for me, it was something more. I came here and I saw a lot of possibility. I was a recent college graduate. Unfortunately, the economy in southern West Virginia isn't really much to speak of unless you want to do retail or the mines. But I never really had this wonderful city on my radar. So I kept coming back, and I would come to White Castle, and I would experience different things. Like I would go to Chillicothe and see like Tecumseh. And I experienced more of this city. 10 months after that first trip, that fateful trip, knowing only one person that I met, Sensei at an Aikido seminar, signed a lease, not even having a job. I took the first job that I could get, which was delivering furniture for Rent-A-Center. And I've worked my way up, and I have a very successful, happy career that I'm very proud of. And I've lived here for 20 years. So, the best part about that was, when I signed the lease for my first apartment, it was right behind Duncan, what's now called the Old North neighborhood. Right down the road, walking distance, a White Castle. And a Blockbuster. And I was like, I don't have to drive 30 minutes to go to Blockbuster. I can walk to a Blockbuster? That's amazing. It's like, I felt like I was living in the future, and that now sounds dated to anybody who's under the age of 25. But I loved it, and I enjoyed it so much. And then, when I met my wife in 2016, she came out here. The first time she came out, I said, have you ever had White Castle? She's like, no. And I said, okay, well, you're going. So we went to White Castle, and I bought her the coffee tumbler that she bought there, and we have done the Valentine's for several years. My sister moved here in 2022 to White Castle. It's like, okay, I'm going to show you all the local spots, but you have to come to White Castle. And she's lived here for 4 years. A city that wasn't on my radar hinged on a simple burger run. For the 20-year anniversary of this, I reached out to Chad, and I hadn't talked to Chad in many years. He lives outside of Lake Palm Springs, California. And I said, Chad, I love this trip. Can we recreate this for the 20-year anniversary? And he's like, sure, find the White Castle closest to me. So I went on the White Castle website, and it's like, what's the closest White Castle to him? And it was in Las Vegas. Well, as it so happens, my wife's family lived in Las Vegas. So I was like, great, I don't even have to pay for a hotel. This is fantastic. So Chad came and picked me up, and we went to the Fremont location. And there are people in your life that you meet, and after you haven't spoken to them for a while, everything changes. There are people in your life that when you meet for the first time, 15 years, absolutely nothing has changed. We didn't even skip a beat. It was just like it was when we did our trip 20 years ago. And I think that that's when I realized something. So at the end of the movie, Harold and Kumar, they got unstuck from a place that they were in because they had gone on a river. It wasn't just the simple act of going for a slider. It was what it represented for them, and it gave them clarity on what they wanted to do next. And that's what it did for me. So the Crave wasn't just a big idea spawned in a small dorm room in a small town in a small college for small sliders. It was a metaphor for the cravings that we have in our lives, for the things that we want to achieve, for the things that we want to do. And sometimes going on a trip like that can really reveal your future in ways that you never really anticipated. So I'll leave you with this. When we were in that White Castle in Lancaster in 2005, Chad looked at me while we were eating, and he said, it's like, Andy? It's like, yeah. He's like, we drove over 200 miles to eat at a burger joint. It's like, yeah. It's like, what do you think the people who run the company would say if they heard this story? And so I turn the question to you guys. What do you think? And I think that, this is just such a classic, this is such a classic piece of Americana, and this just really reflects the value and the wonder of your brand that something like this, the White Castle Cravers Hall of Fame exists. So I want to thank everybody here who was a friend or mentor, everybody here at White Castle, for inspiring and for changing my life. My life is forever changed for the better because of those tiny little sliders and that big idea that my roommate had in 2009. Thank you.
Andrew, just two things. I think hopefully today answers the question what we'll do when we hear this story. And secondly, can we get that, we want to put this into an economic impact study to share with the state of Ohio. So yeah, I mean, there's some positive impacts happening. Yeah. Our next inductee, if there was an Ancestry.com for Cravers, which might be the next big idea, he might take the prize. Ladies and gentlemen, for Generational Cravings, let's celebrate Sloan Hastings. Welcome to the Cravers Hall of Fame.
Hello, everyone. So, when I think about White Castle, I don't think about the food first. I think about the moments. It did start with my dad coming home late from a second shift job, and then just waiting up all night, waiting for my dad to get home. And my brother and I, when we'd hear the door open up, we were like the crinkle of the bag. We'd come running out of our rooms, grab into the bag and bite into those sliders. But yeah, I would stay up all night, just to hear the bag, that iconic smell of those onions. But that was, our time as a family. But years later, I carried that same tradition with my grandfather when he was battling cancer. Some nights my grandfather, he didn't have much of an appetite, but those mattered. Those moments matter a lot. Even before I went back to college, there were long nights with friends. I could probably go on a lot of many different stories about going on late night White Castle runs or getting a crate box and having who can finish the crate box fastest or who could even finish it at all. Or even, my brother and I quoting references to Harold and Kumar. I just like there was a scene where the guy's like at the drive-thru window and he's talking about like this crispy onions, and they're talking about burning whatever burger joint that took every White Castle down. But even thinking back to like those college days, I remember walking down Livingston Avenue just with my friends, just having a good old time. But life changes, and I became a dad. So when I became a dad, my priorities changed a lot. I have 3 children, and I've got another one on the way. My oldest is Oliver, and there's Archie, and my baby Charlotte right over there. I just remember that it was time for me to get my priorities straight and go back to school. I do remember sitting there late nights studying with a slider in my hand. I was in nursing school. It was like the Hunger Games, literally the Hunger Games. But I do remember thinking maybe I just needed to keep going, keep pushing through. It was very tough with having, at that time I had 2 kids at the time. But I remember the moments where I'm just sitting there with the slider and the kids are sitting there next to me. And I guess I get to bring that same tradition home to my kids. And I do see that same excitement that I had when I was a kid, when I come home late at night after working, at work at OSU. There's just something about it when you think about your memories, you think about the things that that create the memories, you think about the smell, the taste, the sounds in your environment. And that just, that brings you back to people and the moments that matter most. So it's not just a crave, it's something that we do pass down. I'm very grateful to be a part of something that connects generations, starting with my grandfather, bringing late night sliders home to my dad bringing them home to me, and now I'm bringing them home to my children. And maybe if I'm lucky one day, my children will come to me and they'll bring me, and hopefully they don't put me in a nursing home, maybe they'll bring me a few sliders, and we'll just sit down and we'll cherish the moment. We won't be staring, maybe at our iPad, but really taking in the environment, the smell, the sounds, and the taste of the sliders. So I'm so grateful to be here, and I think this company and marketing team and the leadership is phenomenal. I can't imagine what it would be like working here, but you guys are very lucky. So thank you again for having me here.
Sloan, speaking of 4th generation family members, I think you got a couple here who might be future Cravers Hall of Famers. So they can see the future. So our next story goes from Texas to Ohio in a New York City minute to celebrate the Crave. The inductees are 2, Elisa Hoffman and Lyden Smith. Lyden will be representing. Welcome to the Cravers Hall of Fame.
When I was 12, I saw Harold and Kumar go to the White House for the first time, and I became obsessed with how good they made the food look. I lived in California at the time. There aren't a lot of White Castles there, but I spent years begging my family to take me. Unfortunately, whether living in California, Oregon, or Texas, we were never very close to one. But I developed a deep love for the frozen sliders. Every chance I get, whether it's in the middle of a shift at an Applebee's or late night playing match with my friends, I'd usually have a box or two with me. And then, around the time I was about to turn 20, my mother discussed my birthday birthday, and I was like, I want you guys to recreate the order from Harold and Kumar. Although I will confess, I spent years misremembering it as 50 sliders and not 30. And my mother's like, okay, I'll see how you do it. So she calls up the company and talks with Austin specifically to get like some boxes and stuff shipped out and recreate the entire meal for frozen sliders. It was amazing. I didn't get through as many as I thought I would. It turns out 50 sliders is a lot. But that surprise, the treat, it was amazing. It was a memory I hold dear. Unfortunately, a couple months back, I made the mistake of going to a restaurant that wasn't a White Castle, a McDonald's, and was struck by a truck coming up and fractured my spine in 2 places. So my recovery was expected to take a lot longer than it did, so my mother was worried because she's in a wheelchair, I'd have struggle helping her and stuff. So she unfortunately didn't end up coming because we expect I would have been better. But she was so happy to have the opportunity and to be nominated. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. White House was super accommodating with everything that happened with me, allowed me to turn paperwork late and stuff, so I just want to give a big thanks to everyone, and I've had a wonderful time.
Lyden, that's a nice order. 50 sliders is good no matter what. Our next inductee from the great state of Florida knows a thing or two about following his crave. Welcome to the stage, Evan Darnell.
Can I get a round of applause for everyone in this room right now? This is so much fun and such a great life memory. Thank you to your team for hosting me and almost a dozen of my guys. I've had some fun moments in my life, but being inducted to the White Castle Hall of Fame might be the only one where people ask immediately, so how many sliders does it take to get into the White Castle Hall of Fame? And the answer is a lot. Years of training, late nights, real commitment. Honestly, it might be the most consistent discipline I've ever shown in my entire life. But the real reason why White Castle means so much to me is because of my dad. Growing up with my dad, we were just different people. He was a lawyer and a total bookworm. If there was a quiet room and a stack of books, that's where he was most happy. Meanwhile, I was the kid running around, always hustling, always hungry, always looking for something to eat. We didn't share in the same hobbies at all, or the same pace of life. But there was one place where we always completely were on the same page. It was White Castle. Our White Castle was in sunny and tropical Eatontown, New Jersey. And somehow that place became our meeting ground. After long days, late nights, random drives, we would end up ordering sliders and sitting in a booth similar to my fellow inductees. And now we had a different pace, my father and I. He approached his sliders in a way a careful person does, one at a time. Meanwhile, I approached sliders like there was a championship belt involved, and the more you ate, you had to eat more because there was a time limit. Every single time we met at White Castle, we made the same mistake. We'd order what we thought was the right amount, and every single time we were wrong, because no one ever nails their White Castle order. It's always, you know what, we should have one more. So the official order to any White Castle order should be whatever you're thinking plus one. Looking back on those trips, it was never really about the food. It was about coming together. One dad, I became a dad, just striking food memories where we had, say, some common ground. Years later, that love of meat, bringing people together, helped me inspire what I do now as a cause, the Red Meat Lovers Club. I am the Secretary of State, and I lead a philanthropy business networking club of over 6,000 people. We come together over great food, great people, and raising money for great causes. And honestly, when I think about where that idea started, it probably started in a booth in Eatontown, New Jersey, coming together because that's what White Castle does. You sit down with a box of sliders, or a crave case, or a pallet, which I know one person has purchased, me. You get people to laugh in your restaurants, people talk, and really it's the only thing that matters at that present moment. You're with friends, you're with family, you're with an epic meal of White Castle sliders. It's just more than sliders. I think my fellow inductees make me realize that. It's more than just food. We can all agree that White Castle remains undefeated, especially in sunny and tropical Eatontown, New Jersey. So I want to thank my father for turning me on to the love of White Castle and the crave. Somehow, some way, those little burgers helped me build a lifetime of memories. Those memories continue with my family and help me inspire my passion of the Red Meat Lovers Club. So if you eat enough sliders with your father, eventually someone gives you a trophy for it. And I want to thank White Castle for hosting myself, my club this week. Thank you to the team, every single person that works for this restaurant group, if you will. It's more than just food, it's everything that comes with it. So thank you very much.
Our next inductee knows exactly what the White Castle real estate team knows. Location, location, location. Please welcome to the stage, Robert Anderson.
It's a real honor to be here, and also slightly surreal. It sort of feels like the mothership has called me home. I first discovered White Castle when I was going to college in Duluth, Minnesota. I'd seen ads for White Castle on TV, and I thought the shape of their burgers and their buildings were rather fun and unique. So on a road trip to Minneapolis, I would stop in Hinckley, and I ordered a 10-pack of sliders. And I remember thinking afterwards, wow, these are some of the best sliders best hamburgers I've ever had. And to this day, they are still my favorite. After that, White Castle became part of the routine. Whenever I traveled between Duluth and Minneapolis, I would stop in Hinckley, order a 10-sack of sliders, and get back on the road. And yes, I would eat them while I was driving. In hindsight, it says a lot about my risk tolerance back then. But there was something special about those stops. When I was eating those sliders, I felt like all was right in the world. But then when I was 30, I ended up moving to the UK for 20 years. There wasn't a White Castle in sight, except for the White Castle in Monmouthshire, Wales. which was literally a castle that was white. Life in the UK was good. I met my wife, we had 4 children, and we built a life together. It was full and meaningful and everything that you would want it to be. But every now and then, I would miss that 10 sack of sliders from Hinckley that were eaten slightly too fast while I was driving slightly too fast. A few years ago, my family asked if we could move to Minnesota, and I jumped at the chance because it meant I could start eating sliders again. When it came time to buy a house, my wife had a list of requirements. It needed to be in a safe neighborhood, in a good school district. It needed to have a nice backyard. And these are all the things you would want to have if you were a responsible adult making a big decision. Now I, on the other hand, had simply one requirement. It needed to be within a 10-minute drive of the White Castle. We eventually found a house that met all of our requirements, including mine. And since then, I've introduced my family to the joy of White Castle, which has been a little interesting. They've asked me lots of questions like, why are they square? How many are you supposed to eat? And what's your favorite type of slider? I don't know why they are square, and there is no right number to eat. There is just the number you stop at. Now, I'm a very complicated person with a simple mind, or so my wife tells me. And so it should come as no surprise that my favorite slider is the original. Looking back, it's funny how something so small can stay with you throughout life. Different places, different routines, different iterations of yourself. But the sliders, they remain the same. And someday, you find yourself standing in a room talking about them in front of a room full of people that not only understand it, but who built it and who continue to build it every single day. And for that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for this honor and for showing that sometimes the things that stay with you and matter the most are the simple pleasures of life.
Robert, we can assure you the mothership has been here for you. We're here for you today, and we'll be there for you as far as the eye can see. Thank you for your great story. Our 10th and final inductee of the day knows a little bit about crossing borders. He also knows a little bit about the thought that sharing is caring. Welcome to the stage, John Leonard Harris.
Thank you so much. I've done a lot of speeches in my life, and this is likely the most important one I've ever given. I preach a lot of sermons. This probably is the most important opportunity I've ever had to speak. I want you to imagine a moment just 2 weeks ago. We have no White Castle in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so because I'm from St. Louis, I have to get White Castle as I travel down I-70, either in Columbia, Missouri, or when I get all the way home to St. Louis. On a trip to Columbia, headed back, and I usually have to get 2 Crave boxes as I head home. Of course, the first time I did that, I put it on Facebook that I had 2 Crave boxes. And when I got home, I had people in my driveway waiting for those Crave boxes. So here I am again, leaving Columbia. 30 cheeseburgers in a Crave box, 30 hamburgers in a Crave box. I'm about 40 miles outside of Columbia. The traffic stalls. A semi-truck with Garnier Nutrice has tipped over in the middle of the highway. And we're stuck for hours. And as a pastor, sometimes you wonder, Lord, when are you going to speak to me? Or when you speak to me, not now. Not now. So I got a sense from on high. You know there are hungry people out here, don't you? And here you have 60 hot White Castles in your car. And like the little boy in the Bible with the loaves and the fishes, Jesus says, how are we going to feed these people? And so I'm thinking, Lord, not now. Not now. And it was like, you know you can't sit in this car with hungry people stalled on the highway. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. So I want you all to imagine. I get out of my car. Got the hamburgers on this side, cheeseburger on this side, and I got the hamburgers on this side. And I'm walking down the middle of the highway with stalled cars on either side. The first guy I get to is in a semi-truck. And I'm thinking, nobody's gonna want these burgers, they've been in my car. Who's gonna eat these burgers? He goes, that's not White Castle, is it? I said, yeah, it is. He said, I'll take 4. Next thing you know, I'm walking down the middle of the highway, just going left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right. I left Columbia, Missouri with 60 great hot White Castles. I got to Lincoln, Nebraska with 12. With 12. And so I called my wife, where's my lovely wife? Oh, here she is right here. Almost 40 years, she's been here listening to my stories. She's been putting up with me in White Castle for all these years. And it's just been a joy. I have to recognize, I have to say definitely my homeboy Ken. Ken Adams and I used to go to White Castle on Kings Highway and Natural Bridge in St. Louis. And it was then White Castle had kind of a counter, it had a counter. A counter, it was old school. My dad used to take us to White Castle, 9 cents back then, 9 cents. Can you imagine buying 50 hamburgers for $4.50? Huh? So Ken and I used to just hang out at the counter. We would buy 1 hamburger an hour and just hang out at the counter. And they were mad at us, like, why are you guys just hanging out here? You're not patronizing. I said, we bought a hamburger last hour. So we would buy 1 an hour and we would just hang out, talking with the employees, hanging out. And I'll tell you what, if we had social media back then, boy, we would have gone viral. Ken and I would have gone viral. But White Castle has been a staple. No, not a staple. It's been an institution in my life since I was a child. And now that I have grandchildren, my hope is this, that, and I've told, and you guys have heard it, we need White Castle in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's the only reason why I'm here. That's the only reason why I'm here. So I don't care who the powers that, you talk about that family meeting, it's time for another meeting. Time for another meeting. The only reason I'm here is to get White Castle. People are counting on me. The people who see this on Facebook. If we don't get White Castle in Nebraska, I better not come back to Nebraska. I need a promise before I leave here. Yes, I do. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I just want to say thank you. It's been a blessing to be here, to meet these other inductees, to know that we share this experience together. I make buttons, and forgive me for breaking the copyright, but I'm not selling them. I made these buttons, and I wanted to give each Craver inducted one of these buttons to remember me by, but also to remember this moment, because we share it together. Because White Castle is indeed that institution that not only brings people together, but it's something we love. It's something you can love. And I've loved it all my life. And I'm just praying, there's a quote in my book called Practical Wisdom that says, some people plant the trees so that others may enjoy the shade. And so I may not see the White Castle that you won't bring to Lincoln, Nebraska. I might be pulling up daisies. God only knows. But I'm here to plant this seed so that my grandchildren will love White Castles one day as much as I do. So for Eli, Legend, Owen, and now baby Jackson. Grandpa has planted the seed. I'm praying that you'll get to enjoy him one day. God bless.
Thank you for that incredible story. You know, we'd give you 2 Crave cases to take on the plane, but I know what would happen.
Hey, let's go for it.
I want to do a giant shout out to all the team members in home office, the Columbus region, that create memorable moments every day, that lead to future Hall of Famers. And all of our Hall of Famers, congratulations. Let's give them a hearty round of applause. With that, our official ceremony comes to the end. We will see you at your local grocer's freezer aisle or at the drive-thru. Crave on, my friends.